3 days now I've been locked in my room to cover the all-digital CES here at my computer, and today I'm going to share with you my recap of day 3 and some of the weirdest announcements from this year's show. Welcome back to another episode of STU'S Reviews. If you haven't already seen my day 1 and day 2 recap, go and check those out before you watch today's episode, because those cover some of the bigger announcements from companies such as Samsung and their wine pouring robots and smart masks and other things like that. But if you haven't seen those, I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check them out. But I'd advise you go and take a look at those, because today we're going to take a look at some of the weird tech. Now, first things first is Razer. They've shown off a CGI video of something they're calling Project Brooklyn, which is a gaming chair with a built-in OLED display that sort of flips over the top of you and then scrolls out around you. This is just a concept at the moment, but it's quite funny because it actually uses a technology that's very, very similar to the TCL display which I showed off yesterday that scrolls outwards. This thing flips over you and then scrolls around, which is quite a good idea in this particular instance, because you're not going to be keeping this display in your bag with your keys, are you? But will we ever see this kind of thing come to fruition? I highly doubt it. I mean, it's going to take up so much room. It's unbelievable. So I think for general consumers, this kind of thing will never happen. Ever. And if it does, I'll be quite surprised. But they also showed off another concept thing, and this time they've called it Project Hazel. Now, this has nothing to do with gaming at all, and in fact it's a smart mask very similar to the one that I showed you yesterday, but with a few different twists. First of all, it's transparent, so that means you can see your mouth moving whilst talking to someone. This is quite good because it allows people to communicate better. But what's a little bit scary is that it's got lights on the inside, so it sort of lights up your mouth when you're speaking. I mean, that's probably taking things a little bit further, but the idea is that it lights up your mouth at night so people can see you a little bit easier. Another thing it has is a microphone and an amplifier so that people can hear you easier. So you're not just seeing them easier, you're hearing them easier. Now, I love the idea behind this, I think it's great, but is it practical? And is it a little bit creepy? I mean, can you change the colours on the inside to shine your face green? Can you change the voice so that you sound like Bane?
You think darkness is your ally?
Is it all a bit weird? Is it a bit much? I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I think I preferred the smart mask that I showed off in yesterday's episode to this one, because it just takes things possibly a little bit too far. And not just this, funnily, it works with Razer Chroma as well. But I guess it is 2021 and we're moving into Blade Runner territory, so why the hell not? The thing is though, this is just a concept at the moment, and again, is this a product that we'll ever actually see come to market? Who knows? I mean, if they do, I'd still like to test it, because that sort of thing is just wacky. So if Razer, you're looking for any beta testers, let me know. Also, they released 2 new laptops, the 15 and 17 Pro, that both use the RTX 30 GPUs and see some significant performance increases, but that's certainly not as weird as what they've showed in their concepts. Another weird concept was shown by GM in the form of a flying car.
The Vertical Takeoff and Landing Drone, or VERTOL, is GM's first foray into aerial mobility. We are preparing for a world where advances in electric and autonomous technology make personal air travel possible. It uses a 90 kilowatt-hour EV motor to power 4 rotors, as well as air-to-air and air-to-ground communications. As a passenger, it represents personal space and a panoramic view of the world passing beneath you.
Come on! This sort of thing irritates the hell out of me. I mean, why are these companies showing stuff that, one, they're nowhere near capable of doing, and 2, they know full well that they'll never bring anything out like that? It's like me sitting here and showing you a poorly CGI'd version of STU'S Reviews World, a new concept I'm working on. There's a 340-mile square theme park with rides that exceed 700 miles per hour, and the only nourishment that they sell there is whisky. That's never going to happen. although I'd quite like if it did. But either way, it's just ridiculous, and these companies need to stop hyping up for no reason. Companies like Mercedes did it right last year when they showed off things like the Avatar car. That was wacky, it was stupid. But if they'd just shown a CGI version of it, everyone would have been like, okay, that's brilliant. But they actually built a working version of this car. I mean, we'll never ever see 90% of the technology that went into making that bizarre concept because it just was not practical. But the point is, they had a concept and they built a concept. They didn't just create a rubbish CGI version of something they thought of one night in their sleep, drunk on bloody whiskey. It's just stupid. Anyway, rant over. Let's get on to some tech from some smaller exhibitors this year, and the first one I'll talk about is one called Coldsnap. Now this is a bit of an unusual one, I'm quite conflicted by it. But gone are the days where you go into your freezer, root around right at the very bottom to pull out that old tub of ice cream that is frozen into a solid block of ice to try and scoop it out for 20 minutes just to get a tiny bit of ice cream. Now you can simply get an aluminium pod, pop it in the top of Coldsnap and make a Mr. Whippy type ice cream, a wonderful fresh ice cream directly there and then within 90 seconds. That's pretty cool. And these aluminium cans, they're just liquid. It's just a liquid ice cream mix inside them. I think that's a great tech. Slightly weird and very unnecessary, but at the same time, sort of necessary because I love ice cream. I don't know. I'm really conflicted about this one, and I was tempted not to include it on the weird list, but I think it is quite an opulent device that does deserve to be on the weird list. But I'd quite like to try the ice cream from it and see how it tastes and see whether or not this sort of thing is worth it. It's basically like an anti-microwave. Rather than heating your food quickly, it cools it down, freezes it into ice cream within seconds. I do like the idea, but it is a bit weird. Next up on the weird list, and straight from the cursed pile of tech, is a company called Ninu who've developed smart perfume. Now this is just... I'm sort of speechless with this, really. The idea behind it is you put a selection of scents or aromas inside the smart perfume bottle, and then in that connected app you can then choose what type of smell you'd like. Do you want to smell sexy, seductive, alluring? Do you want to smell like work? I don't know. But then what it will do is it will mix those aromas inside the actual squirty thing and then spray you with that particular smell. Now I just think that's completely unnecessary. What is wrong with just using a regular bottle? Now they've said that the reason being is that you don't feel the same every day and you might want to use a different perfume. Or you might halfway throughout the day think, well, I want to spray myself with some sexy rather than work smell. But it's all a bit weird and a bit much for me. I mean, who defines what's a sexy and what's a work smell? Because surely that's subjective. One man's sexy is another man's violent disgust. This definitely goes in the list of very weird tech announced and shown off at CES 2021. Talking about sexy is another gadget that is as far away from sexy as you could possibly get, and that is called the DFree. Now this is an ultrasound device that you wear to measure how full your bladder is. I mean, talking about taking it a step too far with your health tracking. But no, in all seriousness, this is a weird piece of tech because it's quite an odd thing, but at the same time I can understand the whole meaning behind it, and actually it could allow people who maybe have some issues in this area to live a relatively normal life. So I love it, but it is a bit weird. It doesn't make it any less weird, the fact that it's actually quite a useful device. But the idea is that it will notify you when it thinks you need to go to the toilet. Now we're coming to the end of the weird list that I've found so far, and it's a bunch of robots. Now these aren't the robots that we've seen already, such as the one that looks after your pets and cleans your house from Samsung. This is a pet robot. Now CES every year is inundated with pet robots, and I hate pet robots. I hate them. anything that is designed to try and capture your affection as a robot just does not do it for me. I've got dogs. I love my dogs. They're real. They react. They're fun. They've got personalities. A robot is just a robot, and I'm under the firm belief that you can't love or have affection towards a robot. Well, I'm sure some people can. But let's just ignore that. That's another episode and another conversation for another time. But the first weird one is by a company called Vanguard. And this is Moflin. I just don't know what to say about that. I mean, what even is it? What is it? But this isn't the only furry robot. There's one from UK Engineering as well called the Cubo. Now, this hasn't been announced at CES 2021. They have just shown it off, though, and it's apparently been at the last couple of CESs. But it is just as crazy, and basically looks like someone's run over your cat and then just reshaped it into a round, flat mess. But this isn't the only thing that UK Engineering have come up with. Take a look at this fresh Christmas themed hell. This is called Bocco Emo, and if you thought Moflin was odd, this is an emotional smart speaker that looks like it should be out only at Christmas time, and when you talk to it, it's supposed to understand your feelings and respond empathetically. And apparently is capable of expressing itself in its own language. Again, does this sort of thing need to exist? I just don't think at this moment in time, with the technology available, we're ready to be able to have emotional connections with robots, because the technology isn't there to understand our emotions, in my own opinion. And I just don't think that these robots are there to be receptive enough and to offer us that emotional support that another human or even a pet dog can. You know, a dog can pick up so many emotions in a human and can have that kind of companionship. So at the end of the day, this kind of stuff just goes straight onto the weird list for me. I'm just not there with it. I really am not there with it. I kind of get it. You're trying to offer companionship to people that might need companionship, and maybe to children this kind of thing would be great, but to adults, just for me, it's a no-go. But that's all from me, guys, today. My Day 3 recap and some of the weird tech I've seen at CES 2021. I'll be doing one more video tomorrow, going over any future announcements that they might have between now and the end of Day 4, so you can hit that notification bell and check back for when that lands. But I'll also be answering some of your questions and your desires, and if you want me to share any opinion on anything particular at CES this year. So if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be answering that in the next video tomorrow. So stay tuned, and I might feature your question. But other than that, guys, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you have enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you back tomorrow.